Just a few days ago, a report circulated about how Assassin's Creed Shadows was the lowest selling modern Assassin's Creed game out of the past five, and it looks like Ubisoft might be panicking a little bit about public perception because now we're hearing that they're making this big response to the backlash saying we had to stop focusing on those who hated us. I have a few different things to show off, but before I get into the topic, if you enjoy the content I create, check out the links in the description, join the community in my live streams, and consider supporting through Patreon or YouTube memberships. Now, responses like this are absolutely wild to me because most of the people who are on social media talking about your game, even if it is in a negative way, they're doing that because they used to love your series, they used to love your franchise, they want you to do better. Most of the time, the hatred and harassment companies claim they're getting is really just criticism. And sure, there are always going to be a few bad apples in every bunch that just say they hate you, they hate your game because they simply want to hate you. But most of the people that were talking about Shadows were disappointed because they wanted you to do better and they hoped that you were going to do better and you didn't. And instead of making a half decent response, they've decided to now come out and talk about the hate that they faced. Quite a few different outlets that are now covering this who are, of course, running damage control. You've got Video Games Chronicle, Kotaku, and this all started because of a GameFile article. But as reported by GameFile, the Ubisoft CEO Yves Guillemot attended the Paris Game Week to give a discussion on technological upheavals such as live game worlds, AI-driven NPCs, and the potential for VR. Before getting into this, however, he reportedly analyzed the backlash against Shadows, then showed attendees a video described by GameFile as pretty corporate but also very dramatic, which explained how the company turned things around. Following its initial announcement, Shadows received criticism from some corners of the internet, partly because of one of the co-protagonists, Yasuke, is a black samurai. Some accused Ubisoft of being woke by featuring him in the game, even though he was an actual person in real life, and of course they are misrepresenting the argument. My problem wasn't that Yasuke was in this game, because yes, he was a real historical figure. The problem is that he was a playable protagonist, meaning you were doing things that were not historical, like, I don't know, having gay romances, for example, and flirting with people, and going around and, I don't know, bashing people's skulls in with his weapons. Like, these are not things that had any sort of historical basis or root. But another problem is that he was the first historical playable protagonist. That was, of course, always going to be a problem no matter who it was. So when people had asked for 10 or 15 years to have an Assassin's Creed game set in Japan, you would deduce that that would mean people would want a Japanese man and a Japanese woman as the playable characters. And if Yasuke was a side NPC, people wouldn't have been as bothered because he wouldn't have been doing that much. And when a company is talking about historical accuracy, and then they're putting things in the game that are completely historically inaccurate, yeah, that's a problem. And of course, in real life, he was more of a retainer than a full-blown samurai, but that has also been misrepresented. So they just kind of decided they were going to do this probably for social media and virtue signaling points. Now, did it turn out well for them? Not necessarily. We all knew that this game was going to sell. There are a lot of Assassin's Creed fans out there. There's a lot of people that don't look at social media. We knew it was going to sell. I always speculated 3 to 4 million copies, though we now know that it is the lowest selling Assassin's Creed game across the last 5 entries, so the modern games, and it also had the highest budget out of all of them, which definitely is not a good look, which I think is kind of suspicious why they're making this statement now. So in his presentation, he said that they were initially surprised by the extent of the attacks. We quickly realized that it was a battle with our fans to demonstrate that we were in fact more of a video game than a message. The problem is that it was a big message. It wasn't just a video game, and we see this happening a lot now. You can have general timeless themes in your product, like Lord of the Rings. There's good versus evil. There's questions about morality. There's all these different things. But when you date your product. Like, let's say you add in cringe Gen Z terminology in a game like, I don't know, Kill the Justice League, right? In 15 years, if you go back to play that, it's going to be outdated and you're going to go, oh, this is really, really bad. Or when you make Orange Man bad jokes in a game, yeah, that dates it. And that's what people do not like. And I don't necessarily think that this game did that specifically, but my major problem, and a lot of people's major problem, was genuinely that they clearly chose Yasuke for virtue signal points. And that right there was a message in of itself. And of course, with the claims that it's historically accurate when it wasn't was a major problem, but he's not portraying that here. He then played the 3-minute video, which ran in English and explained how Ubisoft dealt with the backlash, asking what happens when a legendary franchise reveals one of its most anticipated experiences, only to become the game everyone loves to hate, when conversation shifts from gameplay to ideology, when everything you say only adds fuel to the fire. And the problem with adding fuel to the fire is truly and genuinely your employees and the way that they react. You guys ran to, let's say, the New York Times, and you attacked people as haters and bigots, and that is going to add, of course, more fuel to the fire. When you have developers on your project who take to social media and who attack the gamers that you expect to swipe their credit cards, yeah, that is a big problem. According to the video, in September, they had their backs against the wall, and that's when it clicked to get out of the corner. They had to stop focusing on those who hated us. The issue with these companies is that they view anybody who is criticizing them as haters and losers and bigots and chuds, and this is a major issue we are seeing. You need to actually listen to the people who are critiquing you because they're lifelong fans. I've always loved Assassin's Creed. I think Assassin's Creed is phenomenal. Sure, the first few games are definitely my favorite. Ezio and Desmond, and all those characters, right? I'm not the biggest fan of the modern Assassin's Creed games, the sprawling, open world, big RPGs. I preferred the smaller scale. That's just a preference. But at the same time, I'm still somebody who has loved Assassin's Creed for many, many years. And I want Assassin's Creed to do good. I want Assassin's Creed to thrive. I don't want these new games to suck. But all of the videos I did, the posts I made, even if I levied genuine criticism, would be viewed as hatred and harassment because I'm not on their side. And that's such a sad thing to see, that they are just blocking out any sort of criticism and saying we needed to ignore these people because they're just haters, when really not everybody was. Again, maybe a small percentage of the people on social media were genuine haters. They want to see your company fail. They want to see you do bad. But during a time when you have back-to-back failures, Skull and Bones, X-Defiant, Star Wars Outlaws, Assassin's Creed Shadows, you would think that they would learn something from that. And they're complaining about how are we going to do anything or say anything when everything we do only adds fuel to the fire? Maybe don't put out presentations like this. Maybe saying everybody's a hater isn't going to help you and your public image. Like, what do they not get about that? The video went on to say that Ubisoft started by delaying the game, which was the last thing anyone would have advised, to give developers extra time to polish and optimize it. And listen, even if I don't like your game, even if I think your game sucks, I'm always going to say it's a good thing when companies delay their game. Sure, it's sad as a customer, but at the same time, if your game is not polished, your game is not optimized, it is always better to delay it than rush out a half-assed product. Look at what happened to Cyberpunk 2077. It took them years to fix it. Look at No Man's Sky. It took years for them to change public perception, and luckily in those cases they did. But you don't want your game to launch half-assed and buggy and broken and missing content. We moved from promises to proof, it said. Instead of fearing leaks, we showed the game, releasing in-depth gameplay assets and letting the experience speak for itself. We opened the doors to creators, media, and fans. We gave them access, got them behind the scenes to let them see the talent and craft our teams were bringing to the game, which I think is so funny because as a content creator myself, these large companies generally don't want to work with me because I criticize them. Funny enough, I actually was offered a Ghost of Yote code, which of course I didn't accept, but I was offered a Yote code, which isn't particularly, the type of game that I would want a code to, but they were probably desperate for social media attention. But in the case of Assassin's Creed Shadows, they had paid a ton of very large creators to actually stream this game to try to get attention, like Lyric and Shroud, and all of those people got early access and got these codes and paid campaigns because they wanted people to get their hands on it, not actually giving creators codes simply because they wanted to try to prove those critics wrong. The video also claimed that with our allies beside us, we found our confidence again to stand tall, to take risks, to speak up, even against the loudest haters. And by the time Shadows launched, thanks to our fans, momentum was finally on our side, which I think is just so hilarious because a lot of the people that criticized you were not necessarily against you. It's just that they were against this product. And there's a very big difference. People can still love a company and support a company and not love the direction they're going in. Let's look at From Software for a minute. I love From Software, favorite developer in the industry. I love every single one of their games, and I'm certain I'm going to love every one of their games in the future, but I prefer them going in the direction of Dark Souls 1, 2, and 3, or Elden Ring, or Bloodborne, instead of multiplayer-focused experiences like Night Rain and Duskbloods. Do I stand against them? No. Am I going to critique those products? Yes. Do I think that's the smartest direction for them to go in? No. But do I stand against the company? No. I love them. I think they're fantastic. I'm sure those games are going to be good in the future, like Duskbloods. I'm sure it's at least going to have some level of quality, and I enjoyed Night Rain, but I would prefer these other products over it. That doesn't mean I'm a hater. That doesn't mean I'm a bigot. That doesn't mean I'm a chud. And maybe when you have criticism levied towards your products and your company direction, you should act like a From Software and either say, we're listening to your feedback, we want to always do good, and we hope that you're going to at least give our products a chance in the future, because we will. Though the Ubisofts don't understand that, and they constantly come out and say you're all haters and you're all ists and you're all phobes. And I think that this timing, is pretty suspicious, given just a few days ago we heard that Assassin's Creed Shadows was the lowest selling release across the last 5 modern entries, even though it had the largest budget. Now, we know this franchise is under the new subsidiary, Vantage Studios. We know that they are supposed to be taking over. We know that they are now handling it. And we don't know how many team members from Shadows are going to be on the next game. We don't know exactly how, like, the makeup for their studios are going to work, though we do know that there is new oversight, and maybe this could be positive. Maybe the next Assassin's Creed game is going to be wonderful and phenomenal, though Assassin's Creed Shadows did miss the mark for a lot of people. Not a lot of gamers returned for the DLC, and it just fell flat for a lot of people. It did still sell. It's not like it sold 0 copies, though when you present things like player numbers instead of sales and copies sold, that also isn't a good look. So yeah, now we have Ubisoft like coming out and damage controlling, but also attacking their quote-unquote haters, saying they won the battle against Assassin's Creed Shadows Backlash, even though gamers are really still unhappy with them. And just because they claim they won doesn't mean their games are going to sell in the future and they're going to win customers back. But that's all that I really had to discuss in this video. Let everyone know your thoughts in the comments below. If you found this important and informative, make sure to give it a like, share it, and subscribe to the channel. And if you didn't, give it a dislike. I appreciate your support either way, but I'll talk to you all again in the next video really soon.